The rain hit the pavement like bullets, each drop exploding against the cracked concrete outside Mario's diner. I pressed my forehead against the cold glass window, watching the world blur into watercolor streaks of gray and amber. My reflection stared back, hollow eyes, skin too pale, hair pulled into a messy bun that had given up hours ago, just like me. Table 6 needs a refill, Emma. Mario's voice cut through the clatter of dishes and the hum of tired conversation. I grabbed the coffee pot, its handle warm against my frozen fingers. November in Chicago had teeth this year, and my thin coat did nothing against the wind that sliced through the diner's faulty door seal. Table 6. Always table 6. For 3 weeks now, he'd been there every Tuesday and Thursday night, always alone, always in the corner booth where the light didn't quite reach. My sneakers squeaked against the checkered floor as I approached. I kept my eyes down, a skill I'd perfected over the past year. Don't look, don't engage, pour the coffee, collect the tip, survive another shift. But tonight, something made me glance up. He sat perfectly still, a statue carved from shadows and expensive fabric. The charcoal suit probably cost more than my entire year's rent. His hands rested on the table, fingers interlaced. Strong hands, I noticed, with a silver ring on his right index finger that caught the dim light. The scent reached me before I reached him. Cedar, and something darker, like aged leather and rain-soaked earth. Coffee? My voice came out smaller than I intended. Please. His voice was velvet over gravel, smooth but with an edge that suggested it could cut when needed. I poured, watching the dark liquid spiral into his cup. My hand trembled slightly. Exhaustion, I told myself, just exhaustion from pulling double shifts. Not the way his presence seemed to pull all the oxygen from my corner of the world. Long day? He asked. I looked up then, and immediately wished I hadn't. His eyes were the color of expensive whiskey, amber and gold and absolutely unreadable. But they were looking at me, actually seeing me, not through me the way most customers did. The way David had started looking at me before he left. Every day is long, I said, trying for a smile that probably looked more like a grimace. You work too hard. It wasn't a question. Somehow he knew. Bills don't pay themselves. I moved to step back, to retreat to the safety of the kitchen and Mario's shouted orders. Emma, my name in his mouth sounded different, each syllable deliberate. That's your name, isn't it? My pulse quickened. It's on the tag, I said, touching the crooked name badge pinned to my uniform. I know. A ghost of a smile played at the corner of his lips. I'm Dante. Dante. The name suited him, all dark beauty and hidden infernos. I nodded, unsure what to say, and turned to leave. But his voice stopped me. The man who was here last week, the one you argued with outside. His tone hadn't changed, but something in the air had shifted, grown colder. Your ex-husband? My throat tightened. He'd been watching. He'd seen David corner me in the alley behind the diner, seen him grab my arm hard enough to leave fingerprints I'd covered with foundation for 3 days. It's handled, I lied. Is it? Before I could respond, the diner door crashed open. Wind howled in, carrying sheets of rain and a figure I knew too well. David stumbled inside, his jacket soaked, his hair plastered to his forehead. But it was his eyes that made my stomach drop. Wild, red-rimmed, desperate. He saw me immediately. Of course he did. Emma. He lurched forward, knocking into a chair. Emma, we need to talk. Every head in the diner turned. Heat flooded my face. Mario emerged from the kitchen, wiping his hands on his apron, his expression already hardening into protective anger. David, not here, I started. You won't return my calls. You change the locks. His voice pitched higher, drawing more stares. That's my apartment too. That's my... You lost that right when you emptied our account and disappeared for 6 months, I said quietly, trying to keep my voice steady even as my hands shook around the coffee pot. He closed the distance between us in 3 unsteady steps. The smell of cheap whiskey rolled off him in waves. I made a mistake, baby. I can fix this. I just need... You need to leave. Mario's hand landed on David's shoulder. David shrugged him off violently. Don't touch me. This is between me and my wife. Ex-wife, I corrected, taking a step back. My hip hit the edge of a table. David, please, just go. Not until you listen. He reached for me and I flinched, an automatic response that I hated, that made me feel small and broken. His fingers never reached me. Dante had moved. I hadn't even seen him stand, but suddenly he was there, between us, his presence a wall of controlled danger. He didn't touch David, didn't need to. He simply existed in the space, and David froze. The lady asked you to leave. Dante's voice was quiet, conversational even, but underneath ran a current of something that made the hair on my arms stand up. David's alcohol-brave bravado flickered. Who the hell are you? Someone who believes in respecting a woman's wishes. Dante tilted his head slightly, and in that small movement, I saw something that made my breath catch. Power. Real power, the kind that didn't need to shout or posture. This is none of your business, but David was already backing up, his survival instincts finally penetrating the whiskey haze. You're making it everyone's business. Dante gestured subtly toward the other customers, all watching now. You're embarrassing yourself, and more importantly, you're frightening her. David's eyes found mine, and for a moment, I saw the man I'd married 5 years ago, before the gambling, before the debts, before he'd morphed into this desperate stranger. Please, go home, David. My voice barely made it past the lump in my throat. Please. He stood there for another heartbeat, swaying slightly, his jaw working as if chewing on words he couldn't spit out. Then he turned, stumbling toward the door. He paused at the threshold, rain already soaking his back. This isn't over, Emma, he shouted over the storm. You hear me? This isn't... The door slammed shut, cutting off his words. The diner exhaled collectively, conversations resuming in hushed, excited tones. I stood frozen, the coffee pot still clutched in my white-knuckled grip. Dante turned to face me, and his expression had softened into something almost gentle. Are you all right? I nodded, not trusting my voice. Tears burned behind my eyes, and I absolutely refused to cry in front of this stranger who'd just defended me like I mattered. Emma, take your break. Mario's voice was gruff with concern. Go on. I set down the coffee pot and fled to the back, past the kitchen, into the narrow hallway that led to the employee bathroom. I locked myself in the tiny space, braced my hands against the chipped sink, and tried to remember how to breathe. The fluorescent bulb buzzed overhead, casting everything in harsh, unforgiving light. I looked at myself in the spotted mirror. Really looked. When had I become this person? This tired, frightened shadow who let her ex-husband reduce her to trembling in a diner bathroom. A soft knock on the door made me jump. Emma? Dante's voice muffled through the wood. I apologize for intruding, but Mario was concerned. I splashed cold water on my face, grabbed a paper towel, and opened the door a crack. He stood in the narrow hallway, somehow making even this dingy space look like it belonged in a different world. Up close, I could see details I'd missed before, a small scar above his left eyebrow, the precise way his dark hair was styled, the subtle pattern in his tie that probably cost more than my car payment. I'm fine, I managed. Thank you for what you did out there. I did nothing. He stepped closer, and I caught that scent again. Cedar, leather, something expensive and forbidden. I simply reminded him of basic human decency. He's not usually like that. I mean, he is now, but he wasn't always... I trailed off, unsure why I was defending David to this stranger. How much does he owe? Dante asked quietly. The question caught me off guard. What? His debts. The reason he's desperate. Those amber eyes held mine, and I felt pinned, examined, seen in a way that was both terrifying and oddly comforting. Men don't self-destruct like that without owing someone something they can't pay. I shook my head. I don't know. After he left, I found out about the gambling. He'd taken out loans, used our apartment as collateral. I've been trying to... I stopped myself. Why was I telling him this? It doesn't matter. It's my problem. Perhaps. He reached into his jacket pocket, and for a split second, fear shot through me. But he pulled out a business card. Simple, expensive cardstock, with just a name and a phone number embossed in silver. Dante Marchesi. If you need help, Call this number." I took the card because refusing seemed more awkward than accepting. The paper was thick between my fingers, substantial, real. "I can't afford whatever help you're offering." Something flickered in his expression. Amusement, respect. "I'm not selling anything, Emma. Consider it insurance. Against men who don't know when they're beaten. Why would you help me? You don't know me." "No," he agreed, and his gaze traveled over my face with an intensity that made heat bloom in my chest. "But I'd like to." Before I could respond, Mario's voice echoed down the hallway. "Emma, order up." The spell, if that's what it was, broke. I tucked the card into my apron pocket. "I should get back to work." "Of course." He stepped aside, giving me room to pass. But as I moved past him, his hand caught my elbow, gentle, barely a touch. But it stopped me completely. "Emma, he'll come back." "I know," I whispered. "When he does?" Dante's voice dropped lower, intimate in the cramped space. "Call me. Don't hesitate. Don't wait. Just call." I looked up at him, at this beautiful, dangerous stranger who'd materialized in my life like smoke, and nodded. He released me, and I walked back into the diner's controlled chaos on legs that felt like they belonged to someone else. The rest of my shift blurred together. Dante returned to his corner booth, ordered the steak special, left a tip that made my eyes water when I found it later. $200 folded neatly under his coffee cup. By the time I looked up to thank him, he was gone, vanished as silently as he'd appeared. I finished my shift at midnight, traded my apron for my threadbare coat, and stepped out into the rain-soaked night. The streets gleamed black and gold under the streetlights. My car, a Honda with more rust than paint, waited in the lot behind the diner. I was halfway there when I heard footsteps behind me. "Emma." I turned, and my heart stopped. David emerged from between two parked cars, and this time, he wasn't alone. Two men flanked him, bigger, meaner, with the kind of faces that had seen the inside of a cell block more than once. "I told you this wasn't over," David said, and there was something new in his voice. Not desperation now, calculation. "David, what? You're coming with us." He took a step forward, and his companions matched the movement. "There are people who need to talk to you about what I owe. And since you've got the apartment, the car, everything that should be mine, I don't have anything. You know that. Then you'll help me earn it back." His smile was cruel, unfamiliar. One way or another, terror flooded my system, cold and sharp. I backed up, fumbling for my phone. For anything, my fingers found the business card in my pocket instead. The men advanced. I turned to run, and froze. 3 black SUVs had appeared at the entrance to the parking lot, their headlights cutting through the rain like searchlights. Doors opened simultaneously, and men emerged, tall, dark-suited, moving with military precision. From the center vehicle, Dante stepped out. He changed into a different suit, this one midnight blue, and as he walked toward us through the rain without hurrying, without seeming to care that water was ruining expensive fabric, I understood something fundamental had shifted. This wasn't a good Samaritan helping a damsel in distress. This was something else entirely, something that made David and his thugs look like children playing dress-up. Dante stopped 10 feet away, his eyes finding mine across the distance. Then, without breaking eye contact with me, he spoke. "Gentlemen," his voice carried despite the rain, despite the distance, "you're trespassing." "Who the hell?" one of David's companions started. "I'm the man who owns this street, this block. This entire neighborhood, in fact." Dante's gaze finally shifted to David, and I watched my ex-husband's face drain of color. "I'm also the man who's taken a personal interest in Miss Emma's well-being, which means you've just made an enormous mistake." David's bravado crumbled like wet paper. "We didn't know. We were just threatening her, attempting to kidnap her. Yes, I saw." Dante's men had fanned out, forming a loose circle around us. "The question now is what I do about it." "Please," David stammered. "I owe money to some dangerous people. I know exactly who you owe and how much." Dante's smile was cold enough to freeze the rain. 37,000 to the Kozlov brothers. 18,000 to Marco DeVille's poker room. Another 25 in various smaller debts. Should I continue? How did he know that? How could he possibly? I can pay you instead, David tried. If you just give me some time. Your time is up. Dante moved then, closing the distance between himself and David with predatory grace. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to disappear from Emma's life. Completely. No calls, no visits, no drunken scenes at her workplace. If I see you within a city block of her again, if I hear that you've so much as spoken her name, those debts you're so worried about will be the least of your concerns. But the money is no longer yours to worry about. Dante leaned closer, and though his voice dropped too low for me to hear, I saw David's expression transform into pure terror. Whatever Dante whispered made my ex-husband nod frantically, repeatedly, like a broken bobblehead. Dante straightened, gestured to his men. They collected David and his companions with efficient brutality, loading them into one of the SUVs. The engine purred to life, and the vehicle disappeared into the rain-soaked night. Then there were two, me and Dante, the rain, the darkness. He turned to face me, and I should have been terrified. Every instinct should have been screaming at me to run. This man had just demonstrated power that went far beyond defending me in a diner. This was organized, criminal, dangerous. But when he walked toward me, when he stopped close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from him despite the cold rain, when he reached up and gently brushed a wet strand of hair from my face, all I felt was safe. Are you hurt? He asked softly. I shook my head, not trusting my voice. Get in the car, Emma. I'll take you home. I have my car. Will be delivered to your apartment tomorrow, detailed and with new tires. He gestured to the waiting SUV where a driver held the door open. Please, it's late, you're soaked, and I need to know you're safe. This was the moment I should thank him politely and walk away, the moment I should recognize the danger, the complications, the absolute insanity of accepting help from a man who'd just made my problems disappear with the kind of power that came from very dark places. Instead, I walked to the SUV and climbed inside. The interior smelled like leather and Dante's cologne. He slid in beside me, leaving proper distance between us, and the door closed with a solid, expensive thunk. The driver pulled away smoothly, and I watched the diner disappear in the side mirror. You're wondering who I am, Dante said, not a question. I think I know. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. You're not just a businessman, no. He turned to face me, and in the dim interior light, his features were all sharp angles and shadows. I'm not. Does that frighten you? It should. God, it absolutely should. Yes, I admitted. But you also just saved me from God knows what David and those men were planning. They were going to force you to work off his debts. His jaw tightened. Trafficking, most likely. The Kozlov brothers specialize in it. Bile rose in my throat. And now? Now David's debts belong to me. And unlike the Kozlov brothers, I have no interest in collecting payment from you. Why are you helping me? He studied me for a long moment, and I felt that gaze like a physical touch, cataloging every detail, every imperfection, every broken piece of me, because from the moment I first saw you, 3 weeks ago, pouring coffee with hands that shook from exhaustion, wearing a smile that didn't reach your eyes, working yourself to death to fix a man's mistakes? He paused, seemed to choose his next words carefully. I haven't been able to look away. My breath caught. This was insane. This whole situation was completely, utterly insane. I don't know you, I whispered. No. But you will. He reached over, his hand covering mine where it rested on the leather seat. His skin was warm, his touch gentle despite the calluses I felt on his palm. If you'll let me, Emma, I'll make sure you never have to be afraid again. The SUV pulled up to my building, a rundown 3-story walk-up in a neighborhood that gentrification had forgotten. Dante looked at it with an expression I couldn't read, then back at me. Stay close to me now, he said quietly, as the driver opened the door. He's watching you. I glanced around the dark street, seeing nothing but shadows. Who? Your ex-husband. and whoever he's convinced to help him. Dante stepped out, then offered his hand to help me down. They won't try anything tonight, not after what they witnessed, but desperation makes men stupid. His hand was steady in mine as I stepped onto the wet sidewalk. He walked me to my building's entrance, his presence beside me like a shield against the darkness. At my door, I turned to face him. I don't understand any of this, I know. His hand came up, fingers grazing my cheek with impossible gentleness. Go inside. Lock your door. Tomorrow I'll have someone install better locks, better security. And Emma? Yes? Keep my number close. Day or night, if anything feels wrong, if anyone approaches you, if you so much as hear a strange sound, you call me, understand? I nodded, mesmerized by the intensity in his eyes, by the way he looked at me like I was something precious he'd found in the wreckage. Good girl. He stepped back, creating distance that felt like a physical loss. Sleep well, Bellissima. He was gone before I could ask what that word meant, disappearing into the waiting SUV that purred away into the night like a panther returning to its den. I climbed the 3 flights to my apartment, unlocked my door with shaking hands, and locked it behind me. Only then did I allow myself to collapse against it, sliding down until I sat on the worn carpet, my heart pounding against my ribs. What had just happened? Who was Dante Marchesi, and why did part of me, the broken, exhausted, terrified part, desperately want to find out? I pulled out his business card, still dry despite being in my pocket during the rain. The embossed letters caught the dim hallway light filtering under my door. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Sleep well, Emma. You're not alone anymore. I stared at the message, at those words that should have terrified me, but instead felt like the first deep breath I'd taken in months. Outside my window, I heard the distinctive purr of an expensive engine. Looking out, I saw the black SUV parked across the street, headlights off, waiting, watching, protecting. I touched my fingers to the glass, to the reflection that showed a woman I barely recognized, someone who'd just stumbled into a world she didn't understand, protected by a man who was clearly as dangerous as he was beautiful. And the most terrifying thing of all, I wasn't sure I wanted to leave. Morning came too soon, dragging me from dreams filled with amber eyes and whispered warnings. Sunlight filtered through my cheap curtains, turning the dust motes into golden stars. I lay still for a moment, wondering if last night had been real, or some fever dream brought on by exhaustion. Then I saw the text message still glowing on my phone screen. You're not alone anymore. Real. Definitely real. I dragged myself from bed, every muscle protesting. The mirror in my bathroom showed what 3 hours of sleep looked like. Dark circles, pale skin, hair that had given up entirely. But my eyes looked different somehow. Less hollow. Like something inside me had woken up after a long hibernation. The knock on my door made me freeze, toothbrush halfway to my mouth. Miss Hartley? Building maintenance. A man's voice, professional, unfamiliar. I wrapped my robe tighter and peered through the peephole. A man in coveralls stood there, tool bag in hand, looking bored. Behind him, I glimpsed another figure, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a suit that screamed security. My phone buzzed. Dante. The locksmith. I promised better security. May he enter? I opened the door a crack, the chain still engaged. I didn't request any work. The man in coveralls smiled politely. Mr. Marchesi's orders, ma'am. New locks, reinforced strike plates, security camera for your hallway. Won't take more than an hour. I can't afford... Already paid for. The security guard stepped forward slightly. His face was kind despite his intimidating size. We'll wait out here until you're ready, Miss Hartley. Take your time. I closed the door, leaned against it, pulled out my phone. I can't accept this. His reply came immediately. You can, and you will. Your safety isn't negotiable. We need to talk. Tonight. I'll send a car at 7. Wear something comfortable. Dante. Please, Emma. Let me do this. I stared at that word. Please. Such a simple thing, but coming from a man who clearly never had to ask for anything, it carried weight. 20 minutes later, I let them in. The locksmith worked with quiet efficiency while the security guard, who introduced himself as Marcus, stood watch in the hallway. I made coffee I couldn't afford to share, but offered anyway. Marcus accepted with a grateful nod. "How long have you worked for Mr. Marchese?" I asked, trying to sound casual. 5 years. Marcus took a careful sip. Good man to work for. Fair. Protective of his people. His people? Everyone under his care. Marcus's eyes met mine, and I saw understanding there. He doesn't do things halfway, Miss Hartley. When he decides someone matters, they matter completely. The locksmith finished, pressing 3 new keys into my palm. All set. Deadbolt, chain, and the camera feeds to an app. I'll set it up on your phone before I go. An hour later, I was alone again, in an apartment that felt different. Safer. Like someone had wrapped invisible arms around it and declared it protected territory. I called in sick to the diner, first time in 18 months. Mario barely let me finish the sentence before telling me to rest, that he'd heard about last night from the night cook. The concern in his voice made my throat tight. The day stretched ahead, empty. I cleaned my already clean apartment, did laundry, tried to read. But my mind kept circling back to the same questions. Who was Dante Marchese really? What did he want from me? And why did the thought of seeing him tonight make my pulse quicken? At 6:30, I stood in front of my closet feeling ridiculous. "Wear something comfortable," he'd said. But everything I owned was comfortable out of necessity, not choice. Worn jeans, faded t-shirts, the single black dress I'd bought for David's company party 3 years ago. I chose dark jeans and a soft gray sweater, the nicest things I had, applied makeup to hide the tiredness. Left my hair down because pulling it back felt like hiding, and I was suddenly tired of hiding. The black SUV arrived at 7 exactly. Marcus emerged from the driver's seat, opening the back door with a slight bow. "Miss Hartley." "Please, just Emma." His smile was genuine. "Emma. Mr. Marchese is waiting." The restaurant wasn't what I expected. No neon signs, no crowd of people waiting for tables. Just a discreet bronze plaque beside an unmarked door. Canto. Marcus led me inside, and I stepped into another world. Marble floors. Crystal chandeliers casting warm light over cream-colored walls. Maybe 10 tables total, each spaced far enough apart for private conversation. Classical music played softly, something Italian and achingly beautiful. And there, at a corner table with a view of the city lights, sat Dante. He stood as I approached, and the sight of him in a charcoal suit with the top button of his shirt undone, looking both perfectly polished and slightly undone, made my breath catch. His eyes traveled over me with an intensity that felt like a caress. "Emma." My name again, that same careful pronunciation. "You look beautiful." "I look tired," I corrected, letting him pull out my chair. "You look real." He settled across from me, and a waiter appeared instantly with wine. Dante waved him off. "What would you like to drink?" "Water is fine." "Emma." His tone was gently chiding. "When was the last time you had something simply because you wanted it, not because it was practical?" The question caught me off guard. I couldn't remember. "I don't know." "Then let me introduce you to the concept." He spoke to the waiter in rapid Italian, and the man nodded, disappearing. "I ordered you something I think you'll enjoy. If you hate it, we'll try something else." The point is choosing pleasure over necessity. That's easy to say when you can afford it. Yes. He didn't deny it, didn't apologize for his wealth. "Which is why tonight you'll let me afford it for you." The waiter returned with 2 glasses of something amber and sparkling. I sipped cautiously. Champagne, but sweeter than any I'd tasted, with notes of honey and pear. "It's good," I admitted. "It's Moscato d'Asti." Dante's smile was small, satisfied. "My mother's favorite." "Your mother has good taste." "Had." The smile faded slightly. "She passed when I was 17. I'm sorry." He shrugged, but I saw the old pain in his eyes. "It was a long time ago. She taught me important things before she left." "Like what?" "That family is everything. That loyalty is earned, not demanded. That the most dangerous thing in the world is a man with nothing left to lose." His gaze held mine, and that, when you find something worth protecting, you protect it absolutely. My heart hammered against my ribs. "Dante, I know what you're going to say." He leaned forward slightly. "That this is too much, too fast. That you don't know me. that I don't know you. That men like me are dangerous. Are you? Dangerous? Yes, no hesitation. Very. But not to you, Emma. Never to you. How can you promise that? We met yesterday. I've been watching you for 3 weeks. His honesty was startling. Every Tuesday and Thursday I came to that diner. Not for the coffee or the mediocre food. To see you. To understand why I couldn't get you out of my head after I saw you that first night. Apologizing to a man who'd knocked into you. Smiling even though your feet hurt and your eyes were exhausted. I struggled for words. That's stalking. Perhaps. He didn't look ashamed. Or perhaps it's what happens when a man who's forgotten how to feel anything real suddenly remembers. The waiter arrived with food I hadn't ordered. Pasta that smelled like heaven. Bread still warm from the oven. A salad that looked like art. Dante served me himself, his movements practiced, elegant. Eat, he encouraged. Then tell me about yourself, the real Emma, not the one who's learned to make herself small. So I ate, and slowly, I talked. About growing up in foster care, about meeting David in college, thinking he'd be my family, my forever. About the slow erosion of that dream as gambling became his mistress, as debts piled up, as the man I'd loved transformed into a stranger. Dante listened without interrupting, his attention absolute. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. You deserved better, he said finally. You deserve better. I'm working on it. I know, I see it. He reached across the table, his fingers brushing mine. Let me help. Why? The question burst out of me. Why do you care? You could have anyone. I'm nobody. I'm broke. I'm broken. You're strong. His hand covered mine completely. Stronger than you know. You've survived things that would have destroyed weaker people. You get up every morning and fight. That's not broken, Emma. That's steel wrapped in silk. Tears threatened. I blinked them back. You don't know what you're getting into. I know exactly what I'm getting into. His thumb stroked the back of my hand, sending sparks up my arm. The question is, do you trust me enough to let me in? Before I could answer, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it and his expression hardened into something cold and lethal. Excuse me. He stood smoothly, bringing my hand to his lips in a gesture that felt both old-fashioned and intimate. I need to take this. I'll be right back. He walked toward the restaurant's private room, phone already to his ear. I sat alone, my hand still tingling from his kiss, my mind spinning. This was crazy. All of it. I should leave. Call a cab. Go back to my newly secure apartment and forget this dangerous, beautiful man who looked at me like I was something precious. Miss Hartley? Marcus appeared at my elbow. Mr. Marchese asked me to inform you he'll be just a few more minutes. He apologizes for the interruption. It's fine. I took another sip of the Moscato, letting the sweetness coat my tongue. Marcus hesitated. May I speak frankly? Of course. I've worked for Mr. Marchese for 5 years. In that time, I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. Marcus's expression was serious. He's a good man, but he lives in a dangerous world. If you're not prepared for that, I'm not, I admitted. But I don't think I can walk away either. Marcus nodded slowly, then stay close to him. Let him protect you. Because once Dante Marchese claims something as his, heaven help anyone who tries to take it, claimed. The word should have offended me. Instead, it sent a shiver down my spine that had nothing to do with fear. Dante returned, his expression smooth again, but his eyes still holding shadows. I'm sorry. Business doesn't always respect dinner hours. Everything okay? It will be. He settled back into his chair, but I sensed a new tension in him. Emma, I need to ask you something, and I need complete honesty. My stomach tightened. Okay. David had connections to people beyond the Kosloff brothers, people who might see you as leverage. His jaw clenched. Have you noticed anyone following you? Strange calls? Anything unusual in the past few weeks? I thought back, and my blood ran cold. There was a car. Dark sedan. I saw it outside the diner a few times and once near my apartment. I thought I was being paranoid. Dante's expression turned thunderous. He pulled out his phone, typed something rapidly. Within seconds, his phone rang. He answered, spoke in clipped Italian, then looked at me. "Marcus is taking you home. I'm following in another car." He stood, offering his hand. "And Emma? From now on, you're not going anywhere without protection. Dante, this is too much. It's not nearly enough." He pulled me close, and for the first time, I felt the full force of his presence. The controlled violence, the absolute certainty. "Stay close to me. Let me keep you safe. Please." That word again. Please. From a man who commanded empires with a whisper. I nodded because I couldn't do anything else. Outside, the night had turned cold. Marcus had the SUV waiting, engine running. Dante walked me to it, his hand at the small of my back, his eyes constantly scanning our surroundings. "I'll see you soon," he promised, and then I was inside the vehicle, watching him disappear into another SUV that materialized from the shadows. The drive home took 20 minutes. Marcus parked directly in front of my building, and another car pulled up behind us. 2 men emerged, both with the same alert, dangerous air as Marcus. "Your security detail," Marcus explained. "They'll be watching your building tonight." This is insane. This is necessary. Marcus walked me to my door, waited while I unlocked it with my new keys. "Sleep well, Emma. You're safe now." But as I locked my door and looked out my window at the cars below, at the men who'd stationed themselves to watch over a woman they didn't know, I wondered, was I safe from danger? Or had I just walked willingly into a different kind of cage, one lined with silk and good intentions? But a cage nonetheless. My phone buzzed. "Sleep, bellissima. Dream of better things. Tomorrow, your life changes." I stared at those words until they blurred, my thumb hovering over the reply button. Finally, I typed, "It already has." 3 days passed in a strange new rhythm that felt like living someone else's life. I woke each morning to sunlight streaming through curtains I'd always thought were adequate, but now seemed shabby next to the care being lavished on me. Marcus arrived at 8 sharp, driving me to the diner in the same black SUV that had become as familiar as my own shadow. Men in suits lingered at nearby tables during my shifts, their eyes constantly scanning, their presence both reassuring and unsettling. Dante appeared each evening like clockwork. Never at the diner anymore. Mario had noticed the attention I was drawing and suggested gently that perhaps I needed some time off. "Paid," he'd insisted when I protested. "You've earned it, kid." So instead, Dante came to me. To my apartment with its new locks and cameras, carrying takeout from restaurants I couldn't pronounce, sitting on my worn couch like it was a throne, talking to me about everything and nothing until the city lights outside my window blurred into stars. He told me about growing up in Chicago, about his father who'd built an empire from nothing, about the responsibilities that came with a name like Marchesi. He never explicitly said what kind of empire. But I wasn't naive. The men who followed him, the respect, fear in people's eyes when he walked into a room, the way problems seemed to dissolve with a single phone call. I should have been terrified. Instead, I found myself waiting for the sound of his footsteps in my hallway, for the knock that always came at 7, for the smile that transformed his face from dangerous to devastating. "You're staring," he said on the 3rd night, catching me watching him as he set out containers of Thai food on my small kitchen table. "I'm trying to figure you out." I accepted the plate he handed me, our fingers brushing in a way that sent electricity up my arm. "You're not what I expected." "What did you expect? A monster?" His smile was wry. "Maybe." Instead, I got someone who knows I like extra basil in my pad thai, and that I can't sleep without background noise. I gestured to the small speaker he'd brought the 2nd night, currently playing soft jazz. "It's disorienting." "Good." He settled across from me, his knee brushing mine under the small table. "I don't want you comfortable enough to remember all the reasons you should run. Would you let me?" If I wanted to run? His expression turned serious, those amber eyes holding mine with an intensity that made my breath catch. "I'd let you go, but I'd make sure you were safe first. Always safe." "Even from you?" "Especially from me." He reached across the table, his fingers finding mine. "I'm not a good man, Emma. I've done things that would make you look at me differently. But with you," he paused, seeming to choose his words carefully, "with you, I want to be better. My phone shattered the moment, buzzing insistently against the table. David's name flashed on the screen. I'd blocked him twice, but he kept finding new numbers. Dante's expression turned to ice. Don't answer it. I won't. But the buzzing continued, insistent, desperate. Then it stopped. A text appeared instead. Emma, please. I'm in trouble, real trouble. They're going to kill me. My stomach dropped. Dante. He'd already taken my phone, reading the message with cold calculation. It's bait. What if it's not? What if he's really in danger? He is in danger. From me. Dante's voice was flat, emotionless. He was warned to stay away from you. He chose to ignore that warning. You can't just... I stopped, reality crashing over me. Yes, he could. This man sitting in my kitchen, who brought me food and made sure I slept well, could absolutely hurt someone. Maybe worse. What are you going to do? Keep you safe. He set my phone down, his hand covering mine. That's all that matters. Another text. They say if you don't help me, they'll take you instead. Emma, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for everything, please. Fear spiked through me, sharp and cold. Who are they? Dante was already on his feet, pulling out his own phone, barking orders in Italian. Within seconds, I heard movement in the hallway. Marcus and the others, converging. Pack a bag, Dante said, his voice leaving no room for argument. Enough for a few days. What? No, I can't just... Emma. He gripped my shoulders, forcing me to meet his eyes. Your ex-husband got himself involved with people who make the Kozlov brothers look like children, people I can handle, but not while worrying about you being exposed here. Where are we going? Somewhere safe. Somewhere I control every entrance, every exit, every breath of air. His hands gentled on my shoulders. Somewhere I can protect you properly. This is crazy. This is necessary. He pulled me close, and I felt his heart beating against my cheek, steady and strong. Trust me. Please, Bellissima. Trust me to keep you safe. I looked up at him. At this man who'd become my shadow and my shield in less than a week. And realized I did trust him, God help me. I trusted him more than I'd trusted anyone in years. Okay, I whispered. 20 minutes later, I sat in the back of the SUV with a hastily packed duffel bag, watching my apartment building disappear behind us. Dante sat beside me, his hand wrapped around mine, his thumb drawing circles on my palm that should have been soothing, but only heightened my awareness of him. Where are we going? I asked, as Marcus navigated through late-night traffic. My home. Dante's gaze was fixed on the city sliding past our windows. It's secure, gated. No one gets in without my permission. We drove for 30 minutes, leaving behind the familiar streets of my neighborhood for areas I'd only seen in magazines. Tree-lined boulevards, estates hidden behind iron gates. Wealth so old and established it didn't need to announce itself. Marcus turned onto a private road, stopping at a gate that rolled open silently. The driveway curved through manicured grounds, and then the house appeared. Not a house, an estate. 3 stories of stone and glass, lit from within like a jewel box, fountains and gardens spreading out on either side. This is where you live? My voice came out small. This is where we'll stay until the threat is neutralized. He helped me from the car, his hand at my back as we climbed marble steps to double doors that swung open before we reached them. A woman in her 50s appeared, elegant in simple black, her smile warm. Mr. Marchesi, your rooms are prepared. Thank you, Rosa. Dante guided me inside, and I tried not to gape at the soaring ceiling, the chandelier that probably cost more than I'd earn in a lifetime, the artwork on walls that belonged in museums. This is Emma. She'll be staying as my guest. Anything she needs, any request she makes, treat it as if it came from me. Rosa's eyes widened slightly. Surprise, I realized that he'd brought a woman here, but she recovered quickly. Of course. Miss Emma, welcome. Are you hungry? Thirsty? I'm fine, thank you. The words came out automatically, years of making myself small and undemanding. She'll have tea, Dante corrected gently. The blend my mother liked, and some of those cookies you make. Bring them to the east sitting room. He led me through hallways that seemed to stretch forever, past rooms glimpsed through open doorways, a library with floor-to-ceiling books, a dining room with a table that could seat 20. a study with leather furniture and a fireplace big enough to stand in. Finally, we entered a room that felt different from the formal grandeur of the rest of the house. Comfortable. Lived in. A fireplace crackled with real flames, casting dancing shadows across cream-colored sofas and thick carpets. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed the ground stretching into darkness and the city lights glittering in the distance. Sit. Dante guided me to a sofa, then moved to the fireplace, bracing his hands against the mantel. The firelight painted him in gold and shadow, highlighting the tension in his shoulders. "You're angry," I observed. "I'm furious." He didn't turn around. At David for being stupid enough to involve you. At myself for not seeing this coming. At the bastards who think they can use you to get to me. Why would they think that? We barely know each other. Now he turned, and the look in his eyes made my breath stop. Because I've made it abundantly clear that you're under my protection. In my world, Emma, that means something. It means you're mine. The word hung in the air between us, heavy with implication. "I'm not a possession," I said quietly. "No." He crossed to me, sinking onto the sofa beside me, close enough that I could feel his heat. "You're not. You're a person who deserves safety and respect, and every good thing this world has to offer. But in the eyes of my enemies, the fact that I've claimed responsibility for your well-being makes you valuable, makes you a target. Then maybe I should leave, go somewhere you're not, so they have no reason to." "No." The word was sharp, absolute. His hand cupped my face, tilting it toward him. "You're safest here, with me. I have 30 men on these grounds, security systems that cost more than most houses, and I will burn down anyone who tries to hurt you. Do you understand?" I should have been frightened by the violence in his voice, the promise of destruction in his eyes. Instead, I felt something else entirely, a heat that had been building since the moment he'd stepped between me and David in that diner. "I don't understand any of this," I whispered. "Why you care? Why I'm letting you turn my life upside down? Why being here with you feels safer than being anywhere else, even though you're probably the most dangerous person I've ever met, because you know I'd never hurt you." His thumb brushed my cheekbone, "Because despite everything you've been through, despite every reason you have not to trust, some part of you recognizes that I mean what I say, that I'll protect you. Always." "Dante." Rosa's knock interrupted, her arrival with tea and cookies breaking the spell. Dante pulled back, creating proper distance, but his eyes never left mine as Rosa set down a silver tray and quietly withdrew. "Drink," he encouraged, pouring amber liquid into delicate china. "It'll help you relax." I accepted the cup, letting the warmth seep into my hands. The tea tasted like chamomile and honey, and something floral I couldn't name. The cookies were buttery, perfect, dissolving on my tongue. "Your mother had good taste in tea too," I said. "She had good taste in everything." His smile was sad. "She would have liked you." "How do you know?" "Because she valued strength, real strength, the kind that survives and doesn't break." He set down his own cup, his gaze intense. "The kind you have." Outside the windows, I saw movement, men patrolling the grounds, shadows keeping watch. Inside, the fire crackled and the tea warmed me from within, and Dante sat close enough to touch but carefully not touching. "What happens now?" I asked. "Now you rest. Tomorrow, I handle the people threatening you, and then..." He paused, his hand finding mine again. "Then we figure out what this is between us. This thing that started the moment I saw you and hasn't stopped growing." My heart hammered. "And if I'm not ready for that, then I'll wait." His smile was gentle. "I'm a patient man when it matters, Emma. And you matter more than anything has in a very long time." He stood, offering his hand. "Come, I'll show you to your room." He led me up a curved staircase to the second floor, down another hallway to a door he opened with careful ceremony. The room beyond was beautiful, a 4-poster bed with silk sheets, windows overlooking the gardens, a bathroom visible through an open door that looked bigger than my entire apartment. "There's clothes in the closet, all your size. Toiletries in the bathroom. If you need anything at all, press this." He indicated a small button beside the bed. "Rosa will come, or I will." You thought of everything. I try to. He moved toward the door, then paused. Emma, lock this door after I leave. Not because you're not safe, you are. But because I want you to feel safe. The difference matters. After he left, I did lock the door. Then I stood in the center of this beautiful room that belonged to a world I'd never imagined inhabiting, and tried to process everything that had happened. 1 week ago, I'd been invisible, exhausted, alone. Now I stood in a mansion, protected by a man who terrified and intrigued me in equal measure, wearing clothes that cost more than my monthly rent. My phone buzzed. Dante. Sleep well, Bellissima. You're safe here. I promise. I believed him. That was the most terrifying thing of all. I woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the scent of coffee drifting under the door. For a disoriented moment, I couldn't remember where I was. Then it all came rushing back. Dante. The threats. This beautiful cage I'd willingly entered. A soft knock preceded Rosa's voice. Miss Emma? I have breakfast if you're awake. I wrapped myself in the silk robe I'd found draped over a chair, far too expensive, far too beautiful, and opened the door. Rosa stood there with a tray, her smile maternal and knowing. Mr. Marchese thought you might prefer eating in your room this morning. He's in meetings but asked me to tell you he'll see you at lunch. She set the tray on a small table by the window. The grounds are safe to walk if you'd like fresh air. Just stay within sight of the house. After she left, I ate pastries that dissolved on my tongue and drank coffee that made the diner's brew taste like dishwater. Through the window, I watched the gardens stretch toward a distant gate, men positioned at strategic points like chess pieces. I couldn't stay in this room all day. Whatever was happening, hiding wouldn't change it. I found clothes in the closet exactly as Dante had promised. Jeans that fit perfectly, soft sweaters in colors that complemented my skin, even undergarments in my size that made me blush at his attention to detail. I dressed and ventured downstairs, following the sound of voices to what appeared to be Dante's study. The door stood slightly ajar. I shouldn't have stopped, shouldn't have listened, but his voice froze me in place. I don't care what it costs. Find him. And when you do, make it clear what happens to men who threaten what's mine. A pause. No, not killed. I want him alive to deliver a message. Fear is more effective than corpses. My stomach twisted. This was the other Dante, the one I'd glimpsed in the parking lot. Cold, calculating, dangerous. And the woman? Another voice, unfamiliar. Is under my protection. Anyone who touches her answers to me personally. His tone could have frozen fire. Spread that word. Make sure every crew from here to the docks knows. Emma Hartley is off limits. Completely. I backed away before I could hear more, my heart pounding. I found my way to the gardens, needing air, needing space to think. The morning was crisp, autumn painting the trees in gold and crimson. I walked pathways lined with roses still blooming despite the season, trying to reconcile the man who'd brought me tea with the one ordering people hunted. Beautiful, aren't they? Dante's voice came from behind me. I turned to find him approaching, dressed more casually than I'd seen him. Dark jeans, a charcoal sweater that emphasized his broad shoulders. The morning light caught the gold in his eyes, making them almost luminous. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, I said. Your study door was open. I know. I saw you on the security feed. He stopped close enough that I could smell his cologne mixing with the scent of roses. You heard me giving orders, yes. And now you're frightened. Not a question. Should I be? He studied me for a long moment. Of what I'm capable of, perhaps? Of what I'd do to you? Never. His hand reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. I won't apologize for protecting you, Emma. Even if my methods disturb you. It's not just protection, though, is it? You said I'm yours. Like I'm something you own. Poor choice of words. But he didn't look away, didn't retreat. In my world, claiming responsibility for someone's safety requires absolute commitment. Half measures get people killed. So yes, I've made it known that you're under my protection. That anyone who harms you will answer to me. If that makes you uncomfortable, it terrifies me, I admitted. Not because I think you'll hurt me, but because I'm starting to depend on it. On you, and I swore I'd never let myself be dependent on anyone again after David. I'm not David. His voice hardened. I won't steal from you, lie to you, or leave you to clean up my mistakes. What I offer is real protection, real care, but I understand if it's too much too soon. A phone buzzed. His. He glanced at it, and satisfaction flickered across his features. They found him. David, he's being brought here. My pulse spiked. Here? Why? Because you deserve answers, and he deserves to face what he's done. Dante's hand found mine. You don't have to see him if you don't want to. But I thought you might want closure. Part of me wanted to refuse, to hide in that beautiful bedroom and pretend none of this was real. But a stronger part, the part that had survived David's betrayal, the eviction notices, the fear, wanted to face him, to show him I wasn't the broken woman he'd left behind. I want to see him, I said. Dante's smile was approving, almost proud. Then come. But stay close to me. He can't hurt you, but I want you to feel safe. He led me back inside, through hallways I was starting to recognize, to a room I hadn't seen before. It looked like a library, but the windows were covered, and 2 of Dante's men stood guard at the door. Inside, David sat in a chair, looking nothing like the man I'd married. His face was haggard, bruised. Not badly, but enough to show he'd been handled roughly. His eyes widened when he saw me. Emma! Thank God. Tell them to let me go. Please, I didn't mean... Be quiet. Dante's voice cut through David's pleading like a blade. You'll speak when I allow it. David's mouth snapped shut, fear rolling off him in waves. Dante guided me to a chair, positioning himself between us, a wall of controlled menace. Now, you're going to tell Emma everything, who you owe, why you thought using her as leverage was acceptable, and what you planned to do if she'd come to help you. I didn't have a choice, David's voice cracked. They said they'd kill me if I didn't, so you chose to sacrifice her instead. Dante's words were soft, deadly. Your ex-wife, who you claimed to love, you would have handed her to traffickers to save your worthless skin. The room spun. Traffickers? The Voronov crew. Dante didn't take his eyes off David. Russians who specialize in forcing women into labor. You knew this, didn't you, David? You knew exactly what they'd do to her. David's face crumbled. I'm sorry, Em. I'm so sorry. I was desperate. I thought maybe they'd just scare you, make you pay some money. I don't have any money. The words exploded out of me. You know that. You took everything. I know. I know. Tears streaked down his face. I'm sick, Emma. The gambling, it's a disease. I can't stop. Then get help. My voice was cold, unfamiliar to my own ears, but leave me out of it. I'm done cleaning up your disasters. I stood, suddenly needing distance from this pathetic stranger who'd once promised me forever. Dante's hand caught mine, steadying me. What do you want me to do with him? Dante asked quietly. The question hung heavy. I knew what he was really asking. How far should the punishment go? I want him to disappear from my life, I said. Completely. I want him to get help for his addiction, pay his own debts, and never, ever contact me again. Dante nodded slowly. Consider it done. He turned to David. You heard her. My people will put you in a facility. You'll stay until you're clean. Your debts will be transferred to me. You'll work them off legitimately. No shortcuts. And if you ever speak her name again, if you even think about her, what happened to you today will seem gentle. Do you understand? David nodded frantically. Yes. Yes, I understand. Thank you. Thank you. Don't thank me. Dante's smile was arctic. Thank her mercy. I would have done far worse. He gestured, and his men escorted David out. The door closed, leaving us alone in the quiet library. I sagged against Dante, and his arms came around me immediately, strong and sure. It's over, he murmured against my hair. He can't hurt you anymore. You're really sending him to rehab? I'm a monster, Emma, but I'm not cruel without reason. His hand stroked my back. He needs help. You need peace. This solves both. I pulled back to look at him, this complicated man who ordered violence with one breath and mercy with the next. Who are you really? Dante Marchesi. Someone who's found something worth protecting. His hand cupped my face. Someone who's falling for a woman too stubborn to know when she should run. My breath caught. Dante. I know it's too soon. I know you need time. His thumb brushed my cheek. I'm not asking for anything except the chance to prove I'm worth trusting. Can you give me that? Looking into those amber eyes, feeling the strength in his arms, the steady beat of his heart against mine, I realized something terrifying and true. I was already falling too. Yes, I whispered. His smile transformed his face, and for the first time since this began, I felt something besides fear. I felt hope. The days that followed blurred into a rhythm I'd never imagined. Mornings walking Dante's gardens while he handled business, afternoons reading in his library while he worked in his study, evenings eating dinner together like we were something normal instead of a waitress and a crime lord playing at domestic bliss. But beneath the surface, something was shifting, growing. Every accidental touch lingered longer. Every shared glance carried more weight. The careful distance Dante maintained began to feel less like respect and more like torture. 2 weeks after David's removal from my life, I stood in Dante's kitchen watching Rosa teach me how to make fresh pasta. My hands were covered in flour, my hair tied back with a ribbon, and I was laughing at something she'd said when Dante walked in. He stopped in the doorway, and the look on his face made my breath catch. Hunger. Pure, undisguised hunger that had nothing to do with food. Don't stop on my account, he said, his voice rougher than usual. I'm enjoying the view. Rosa smiled knowingly. I think I'll check on the laundry. Emma, you're doing wonderfully. Just remember to keep the dough moist. She disappeared, leaving us alone in the warm, flour-dusted kitchen. You're staring again, I said, echoing his words from weeks ago. I can't help it. He moved closer, his finger swiping flour from my cheek. You look happy. I don't think I've seen you truly happy before. I didn't know I could be. Not after everything. I set down the dough, suddenly aware of how close he was, how the afternoon light caught the gold in his eyes. You did that. Gave me space to breathe. Emma. My name was almost a groan. Do you have any idea how difficult it's been? Having you here, under my roof, seeing you every day, and not— He stopped himself, jaw clenching. Not what? Not touching you the way I want to. Not showing you how I feel. His hand came up, fingers threading through my hair. I promised myself I'd give you time, let you heal. But God, Bellissima, you're making it impossible. My heart hammered against my ribs. Maybe I don't want time anymore. His eyes darkened. Don't say that unless you mean it. Because if you give me permission, I won't hold back. Then don't. The words left my mouth before courage could fail me. I'm tired of holding back. Tired of being afraid. You make me feel safe, Dante. You make me feel seen, and I swallowed hard. I think I'm falling in love with you. The last word barely left my lips before his mouth was on mine. The kiss was everything I'd imagined and nothing I'd prepared for, demanding yet gentle, consuming yet careful, like he was claiming me and cherishing me simultaneously. His hands framed my face, tilting my head to deepen the kiss, and I melted into him, tasting coffee and mint and something uniquely him. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his forehead rested against mine. I've been in love with you since that first night in the diner, he confessed. Watching you smile through exhaustion, being kind to people who barely noticed you existed. You were the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. I was a mess. You were perfect. He kissed me again, softer this time. And you're mine now, if you'll have me. Not as a possession, but as a partner. Someone who chooses to stay because they want to, not because they're trapped. I choose you, I whispered. All of you. The dangerous parts and the gentle parts and everything in between. His smile was radiant, transforming his face into something almost boyish. Then let me do this properly. He stepped back, and to my complete shock, dropped to one knee. Dante, what are you— I know it's fast. I know people will say we barely know each other. He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket, opening it to reveal a ring that took my breath away. A simple band with a single diamond that caught the light like a captured star. But I've never been more certain of anything. Marry me, Emma. Let me spend the rest of my life protecting you, loving you, showing you every day that you deserve everything good this world has to offer. Tears spilled down my cheeks. That's insane. We've known each other less than a month. I know. Say yes anyway. I looked at him. This powerful, dangerous, unexpectedly tender man who'd turned my life upside down in the best possible way, and realized there was only one answer I could give. Yes. His whoop of joy was so unexpected, so unguarded, that I started laughing even as he swept me into his arms, spinning me around the kitchen while flour dusted us both like snow. He set me down only to slide the ring onto my finger, where it fit perfectly, like everything about this impossible situation. How did you know my size? I know everything about you. His smile was wicked, including that you sleep on your left side, prefer your coffee with too much sugar, and hum when you think no one's listening. Stalker, I accused without heat. Only for you. He kissed me again, and this time, there was promise in it. Forever in it. The next 3 months passed in a whirlwind. Dante insisted on a small ceremony. Just Rosa, Marcus, a few of his most trusted people, and a judge who owed him favors. I wore a dress that cost more than my old car, simple white silk that made me feel like someone from a fairy tale. When Dante saw me walking toward him, his expression cracked open, revealing everything he usually kept hidden. Love, wonder, absolute devotion. You're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, he whispered as I took his hand. You've said that before. I'll say it every day for the rest of our lives. The ceremony was brief, the words traditional, but when he slid the wedding band next to my engagement ring and kissed me as his wife, I felt something click into place. Like I'd been wandering lost and finally found home. The reception was louder, held in Dante's gardens under strings of lights that turned everything magical. His people celebrated with genuine joy. These dangerous men who I'd learned had a strict code of honor, who protected their own fiercely, who'd accepted me as one of them because their boss loved me. Happy? Dante asked as we danced under the stars, his arms around me, the music soft and sweet. Terrified, I admitted. But yes. So happy I don't know what to do with it. Get used to it. His hand splayed across my lower back, pulling me closer. Because I plan to make you this happy every single day. Later. Much later. When the guests had gone and we stood alone in the bedroom we'd now share. He made good on that promise. His touch was reverent. His words whispered against my skin in Italian and English, telling me I was beautiful, precious, his. And for the first time in my life, being someone's felt like freedom instead of a cage. Months turned into a year. I took online classes, discovered a talent for business that Dante encouraged by putting me in charge of his legitimate enterprises. The restaurants, the real estate holdings, the investments that had nothing to do with his darker dealings. I thrived under the challenge. Found purpose I'd never known I was missing. He kept his promise about David, who completed rehab and found work in another state, his debts paid through honest labor. I never heard from him again, and gradually, he faded from someone who'd haunted my nightmares to simply a mistake I'd survived. The nightmares themselves disappeared, replaced by dreams of the future, of the family Dante wanted, the empire we'd build together, the life we were creating from the ashes of who we'd been. One evening, as we sat in the library, me curled against him on the sofa, his hand absently stroking my hair while he read reports, I realized something profound. I'm not afraid anymore, I said quietly. He set down his papers, giving me his full attention. Of what? Anything. The future. Being happy. Losing it all. I looked up at him, at this man who'd become my everything. You taught me I'm stronger than I knew. That I deserve good things. That being protected isn't the same as being controlled. You taught yourself that. His finger traced my cheek. I just gave you the space to remember. We saved each other, didn't we? Yes. His smile was soft, genuine. You saved me from becoming someone too hard to feel, and I saved you from a life that was killing you slowly. So what do we do now? Now? He pulled me closer, his lips brushing my temple. Now we live. We love. We build something beautiful from the broken pieces we started with. Outside the windows, night had fallen over the grounds. The security lights created halos in the darkness, and I could see Marcus making his rounds, still protecting, still watching. But I didn't feel trapped by the security anymore. I felt held, cherished, safe in a way that came from being valued, not controlled. "I love you," I whispered. "My dangerous, complicated, unexpectedly gentle husband, and I love you, my strong, stubborn, absolutely perfect wife." He kissed me deeply, thoroughly, until the world narrowed to just us. "Forever, Emma. You have me forever. Promise?" "I promise." His hand found mine, fingers interlacing, our rings catching the lamplight. "Stay close to me, Bellissima. Not because you have to, but because you want to, always," I breathed. And in his arms, surrounded by the life we'd built from fear and chance and impossible circumstances, I finally understood what it meant to be truly free. Not freedom from protection or care or devotion, but freedom to choose it, to choose him, to choose us. The rain that had brought us together still fell sometimes on Chicago nights. But now I watched it from behind glass in a home filled with warmth and laughter and love, my husband's arms around me, our future stretching bright and unafraid before us. I'd walked into Dante Marchese's life broken and invisible. I walked through it now whole and seen and loved beyond measure, and he'd been right that first night in the parking lot, when he'd whispered his promise into the rain-soaked darkness. I wasn't alone anymore. I never would be again.